So some of the common deficiencies we see, the big one, painted and fouled sprinkler heads. If you want to save yourself a lot of time and headache, educate your maintenance people and your painters not to paint fire sprinkler heads or other type of fire detection equipment. See here, we've got pictures of a few painted sprinkler heads. You see the one here on the third picture, that's a concealed head. What happens when we get paint on these? It potentially glues that cover to the ceiling, and that sprinkler may not activate in the event of a fire, or it will be seriously delayed in its activation. We also see sheetrock mud on these and lint or other fouling. So the only way a sprinkler head can be cleaned is by not touching that head. So if you can blow off lint and dust, stuff like that, that's perfectly acceptable. But once they're painted or fouled, we as industry professionals are required to replace that sprinkler head. We can't clean it with any kind of solvents or anything that we have to touch or scrape on that sprinkler head to get it removed. Mechanical damage and theft, pretty common issues we see. Mechanical damage typically in areas where that sprinkler is subject to high travel, vehicles moving through. This sprinkler here, which you see on the second one, that was actually in a landing of an apartment complex where they were moving a couch and whacked into the sprinkler head. The other one here on the left is a parking garage. You can see how much impact these heads can actually take without discharging. Neither of those heads discharged. So unless you hit them just right to break that frangible element out, they're actually pretty durable. It's something you want to watch for if your heads are in areas where they could potentially be hit. We can put guarding on those sprinkler heads for you so that we can mitigate that damage. Here's another picture of a parking garage with the pipe seriously damaged. Was run into by a delivery truck. And then theft. A lot of our fire department connections are brass, and people like to make off with that brass connection, so they'll steal those pieces. Corrosion and leakage is another common item we find. As you can see by these pictures, a few of these items have obviously been neglected for a lot of years. When you have this kind of leakage and corrosion, you want to get somebody out to fix it before it gets to this point and causes damage or serious leaks. You can see that sprinkler head here. This is a sprinkler head. We have one of our locations on the coast exposed to salt water. That's a dry sprinkler head. When they get to this condition, it's time to replace them. Dry heads, when they start to corrode like this, have a very high failure rate. And then we were talking about a little bit of that pipe corrosion. The picture on the right here is a dry system. Typically, these start to get pretty corroded anywhere from 20 to 30 years into their lifespan. Your thin wall pipe is affected much more than our older Schedule 40 systems that had a lot heavier duty pipe in it. But we tend to see these anywhere from 20 to 30 years in the life of a dry system. Then other items, maintenance issues, air compressors. Typically, most service companies, including us, will do some basic checks on your air compressors. We're going to check to make sure there's oil in them. Just do a quick check to make sure the belt's not damaged and that the tank is drained of its condensate. But really, you need somebody to contract with somebody to do the oil changes on these compressors and more detailed maintenance if you're not doing that in-house. Another item we see is freeze damage. Freeze damage happens quite a bit when we see stuff like this picture on the left, where insulation gets moved away from the sprinkler head. This particular instance, this sprinkler head broke and fell into our customer's pool area right in front of their dressing rooms. And they happened to notice it as they were walking through. No water had discharged from the system yet, but that pipe, because the piping above was still all plugged with ice. So they called us and got us out there before that system could thaw and discharge, causing more damage. But before freezing weather, you want to check items like your insulation, make sure everything that needs to be sealed up is sealed up to avoid those temperatures. And drain condensate out of your low points, or have a service company like Performance do that for you.